change, and I don't wanna blame. What good would that do? But I can't take no more games. Say that. Just can't take no more games. You on that one, my man.
Okay, Friday edition of the After Show. Got Weekend Justice with you a week over here on the East Coast.
And Justice over here on the west coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is Angle of Repose Friday here on the After Show, as it is every Friday. Now, surveys say that's the angle in which a granular substance stays in place on a slope, but we insist it's the angle in which you recline on your Barker lounger while reading Wallace Stegner's Angle of Repose.
Thank you.
Okay. Got through that one. Waited all week to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, how you doing, Wee?
Not bad, not bad. It is a bright, sunny day out there. Nippy. It's 21 degrees, so it's not very warm. But, man, it looks like the 4th of July out there. You look out the window and go, holy cow, man, what's going on? Sunshine, which we haven't really seen all that much of this time of year. Reminder to get in the chat, just go to netrootsradio.com. Scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And since Trump has filed papers for his 2020 run, it only seems fair that we would tell you that our donate and contribute button is just to the leftish of the chat room link.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we're going to match dollar for dollar, but we'll be able to keep the lights on and the modeming.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And thank you for your generosity, all kidding aside.
Yep.
Oh, and as a reminder, of course, you can get After Show Pods by way of Spreaker.com for the raw data file, which comes up fairly immediately, and also the perfected file, which is on Podbean, and that comes a little bit later. So you can get them on those platforms, and thank you for doing that.
Yep.
All right, well, here along the banks of the Rogue River on the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 38 degrees, slated for to go to 53, rain all day. No chance of thunder showers, which we had a bit of a possibility of that yesterday, and it didn't happen where I lived. I was waiting. I wanted it. I love the flash and the boom. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
But so it's supposed to have snow by Tuesday.
Okay.
So for us, winter is not over, apparently.
Not quite yet. No.
Yeah.
Still got a ways to go.
So I'm thinking, I guess I'm smart for not putting anything in the ground yet. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there's all sorts of news. We had a crazy press conference yesterday, and for some reason, I don't really watch TV during the day because I have so much more to do, and if I'm around where I might turn on a TV, once again, I have too much to do. Either I'm not in front of a TV, or if I am, I don't turn it on because I have other things I'm doing, right? But for some reason, I decided, you know what? I'm going to check out C-SPAN. And then I saw a chyron, I guess, scrolling to get to C-SPAN about Trump doing a press conference. So I turned it on. Wow, I saw it in real time, buddy. Holy hell. Ooh, Nelly. Boy.
Yeah, I caught a few minutes of that.
I just think that it's, to call the guy crazy is really disrespectful to the whole mental health.
Yes.
Profession.
Yep.
It really is, because I don't know what to call it, because there's something definitely wrong here, and there's enablers who seem to want to profit off of this man's, shall we say, diminished capacity. I don't know what else to call it. Now, of course, his ego is such that he would not admit to any diminished capacity. Well, that's, he was saying that in prep school, and kids around him were saying, God, that Trump guy's a dummy. But he's got a lot of money, though. Got a lot of money,
Yep, he does.
I had friends growing up, and they still believe it to this day, that just by virtue of the fact that you have money, that must mean you have some like secret to the universe. It's kind of like the prosperity gospel in a way.
Right.
They didn't call it that, but that's what it became to be known later, this sentiment that just by virtue of the fact that money rained upon you, it must have come as manna from heaven. All right. So you're blessed.
Heck yeah.
And anybody who's rich, we're deferential to them, almost like we cast our eyes away, because they're royalty. We can't look the royalty straight in the face. They used to get your head lopped off if you did back in the day. If you looked in the king or queen's eyes, you're dead. I don't know if you knew that, but that's, one of the reasons why we had a revolution too. Little things like that kind of, upset people. And the question, now there were actually two questions about anti-Semitism yesterday. They're talking about one that came with Netanyahu's visit, and then the first one yesterday. But there was another one who, in solidarity to the fellow who was dressed as an Orthodox Jew, repeated the question, and Trump went off on that guy and called him fake news too. I mean, it's like, we're not calling you anti-Semitic, you fool. They didn't say fool, but they're trying to, right? And he's telling him, shut up. I'm like, okay. And it comes on the heels about the kind of people that he surrounds himself with, like white nationalists. And I just love, well, some of my best friends are Jews. I'm not anti-Semitic. See, I have a Jewish friend. I have a black friend. Oh, which reminds me, what he said to April Ryan was just... April Ryan, correspondent for American Urban Radio, happens to be black. But I guess in Trump's mind, all black people know all black people. So she asked a question about the Congressional Black Caucus, which at first he didn't know what the acronym for that was. He was a little confused. And then when she reminded him that was a Congressional Black Caucus, oh, you know black people? Well, why don't you set it up? And she goes, I'm a reporter. Well, you got to know some of them. You got to know somebody there. And it turns out that Elijah Cummings had actually requested a meeting shortly after the inauguration, and he got blown off. And Trump told a lie that they had a meeting all set up, and Elijah Cummings blew it off because it was politically expedient for him.
Yeah.
When actually what happened, I think, is that in the discussions, because there's so much volume of stuff that a president has to know, it got muddled in Trump's head, where Elijah Cummings would use it as a politically expedient tool for his side. And so we can't meet with him. And so it got turned around that Elijah Cummings canceled the meeting and, But it's all part of the lie. You keep telling lies, and, that's the little one because you're telling a big lie also. Okay. Now, I've had some suggestions that I don't repeat this story, but I'm going to anyway because it's all part of trying to filter through, and we should be aware of what's going on. AP is reporting, along with New York Times, Washington Post, that Trump is proposing 100,000 National Guardsmen troops with their military gear, like tanks, to take to the streets to round up immigrants and refugees and get them the hell out of here. It's been suggested that it's a trap just to take attention away from the Russian connection, and I think that we need to be able to hold many balls up in the air. And, of course, it's the states that, pretty blue, border states, that kind of thing. So, that kind of has a little Teutonic Cyrillic blend to it, if you think about it. Tanks in the streets rounding up bad hombres. Yeah, I like that image. But once again, that's just a proposal. We got to keep that in mind because we need to keep... Also, when you're juggling, there's usually one item that's up in the air that you're paying attention to. That's the one you're going to pass, right? Pass back and forth. You can't pass the chainsaw back and forth, but you can the bowling pin, right? So when the bowling pin comes into play, pass that off to your fellow, and then she passes it back to you, and you keep that chainsaw going. You got the bowling ball. You got the bowling pin. And in this situation, the bowling pin that we are passing back and forth is the fact that the Russians have such deep involvement. And this is I guess it's a constitutional crisis. You know, you usually don't think of your president as being, Putin's man in the White House.
Yeah.
It's just okay. These are the issues we are going to attend to today. It's Friday, almost like anything goes, but we try to have a theme. Well, assuring the city's residents that you are welcome here, the Chicago Transit Authority uses social media to deny rumors of immigration checkpoints at the subway and at bus stops. Show me your papers. I don't know. There's just so much cinema you have to go back and change, where the bad guys were the ones who said, show me your papers, right? Okay. Immigration, and this is a scandal that it's just so wrong on many levels, let alone the moral aspect of it, because some people are going to be burning in hell. And I don't even believe in that. At least not in the Dante-esque aspect.
Right.
But immigration and customs enforcement officials are caught altering documents to detain DACA recipients protected from deportation. Erasing things to make it sound like they said something they didn't say. Filling in a box here and there. Erasing a box here and there. Goodbye. Unbelievable week. And the Supreme Court probably won't care, but a new study confirms that voter ID laws are not just racist, Wink, they are very racist. So there. And there's a study that codifies that. And what better way to, try to convince a right-winger? They don't care about facts. But we do. Hey, the last half on Fridays, it's always the Friday Used Up and Recycling Center news that's been repurposed with a purpose. I love this one. With their new White House press passes, we got to get one of those, Wink. They're letting bloggers and internet radio people go on. We just have to fake them out and make them think that we're right-wing Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we should start being anti-fluoride. We'll probably get invited. Yeah, I'm anti-fluoride. Oh, well, come on. Okay, with the new White House press passes, Gateway pundit troll Jim Hoft and his new White House correspondent spent their first day flashing white nationalist gang signs in the White House press briefing room. Isn't that nice? Yeah, just don't call them deplorable. All right. And scandal-ridden Deutsche Bank examined Donald Trump's accounts and questionable recent loans for any Russian financial guarantees. But they won't tell you what they found. Oh, God. Because I think they're under audit by the DOJ, so to speak. Well, I think we may find out about that. There's a little thing called discovery, isn't there?
Yeah.
Interesting. All that. Plus the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar and more. There's always more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow with his ever so subtle East Coastal elitism, and his name is Wink, and this guy all the way back over here with my deplorable leftist West Coastal elitism. And my name is Justice, and it's not so deplorable, really. And we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this particular tearing the fabric of space-time because who loves you, baby? Yeah, not deplorable, because I like to keep the deplorable moniker for like racists and bigots and homophobes and all that. So, my elitism, I don't know. Once again, I always, I grew up with the idea that the elite were the learned, accomplished,
right,
egalitarian, with the noblesse oblige, which is a little, kind of weird in its own right. Like I'm still lording over you attitude, if you can tamp that aspect down of noblesse oblige. would be fine. But uh, so that was an elite, that you wanted those people to maybe run things because they knew things and could do it. The Renaissance, the fellows and gals, and you don't hear so much about the gals, but there were a lot, I got to tell you, of the Renaissance, far-ranging, learned minds who could also put things together. Do it yourselfers. Big libraries. So when I would go into, I once again, I told you I grew up with guys, who thought that just by the mere acquisition or holding of money, that meant you had a secret to the universe. And so I, once again, elite, my idea of elite, those people had like fairly substantial libraries in their house, right?
Yep.
And
Back in the day, yeah.
so it's kind of funny. I go to visit one of these friends who's done pretty well. Go to his house, and the whole his supposed library office, all the books are fake.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, they're just like they're like the back bindings,
Right.
They're sort of like a painting almost.
Yep.
Oh my God! Of course, I should have been aware of that possibility when I first entered, and there wasn't a fresh flower in the place, but a lot of these, I don't know, silk and those kind of arrangements are fine. But I always figure if you have that kind of money, you might as well get some fresh florals,
There you go. Yeah.
So go into his office and all the books are fake. I thought that was great. Okay. What was it? Image is everything. Substance doesn't mean shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Okay, you are welcome here, the Chicago Transit Authority says, because if all the little people are making barely enough wage, I mean, most of their wages are spent on transit to get to their jobs. This isn't a really thought out thing, when you think about it. Of course, on the other hand, what's next? If you already have all these people and they so want to work, we'll put them to work because they're prisoners. We don't have to pay them except for their room and board. I don't know. Is that how it's going to work? This is by Megan Crepu out of the Chicago Tribune. The Chicago Transit Authority has taken us to social media to deny rumors that immigration officials have been checking identification at transit stations this week. There have been no instances of ID checkpoints for purposes of verifying immigration status anywhere on the Chicago Transit Authority. They had said in a statement posted on its Facebook page and its Twitter account, "We do not participate in or support this type of activity." And the statement was posted in both English and Spanish. Where I come from, it would have been in Tagalog, Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese, like I said, Tagalog. It would have been in French, German, Urdu, Russian too. There's a sizable Russian community in the Bay Area. So Chicago, wow, they only had to put it in English and Spanish. Interesting. And the statement read, "It's important to us that everyone, no matter who they are, how they identify, or where they are from, feel comfortable and confident riding transit in Chicago." The statement read, "You are welcome here." Now, the rumor gained traction on social media Tuesday when several people posted unsourced accounts that federal officials were checking the immigration status of people at Chicago Transit Authority stations. And this is an issue, Wink. We have to be careful. I mean, I understand about the diversionary tactics of, 100,000 National Guards in the street, rounding up people who might even be U.S. citizens. And even if they're not, that's a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act, right? Clear and simple.
Heck yeah.
So, that might be just in the mix of the Gish Galop. And one could say that maybe in the broader scheme of things, causing fear of checkpoints at transit stations might be part of a grander scheme, possibly. But each of these components still have to respond in a bureaucratic way. And this is what, something that I've been hearing in terms of analyses about how we might be able to come out of this. Because for all of our supposed apathy about our country, the civic involvement, the civic understanding, the ingrained patriotism we have to process, the Constitution, can't be found in anywhere else. I mean, other uprisings that occurred in Hungary and the old Czechoslovakia and what's happening in Turkey are so dissimilar to what we have in terms of the only real long-term memory that we might have is this idea of our constitutional form of government. And so that's why we had these massive numbers take to the streets immediately. And this is from people out in the world who have been parts of other democratic uprisings. So we may be able to pull ourselves out of it because we kind of know when we've been hoodwinked and the Rainmaker is nothing but a flim-flam man. Carpetbagger.
Right.
Yep. We don't call it riding them out of town on a rail for nothing because that actually happened. I love that scene in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, where they take the bigot politician out of town on the rail, and it's a railroad tie.
Yep.
They tie that baby there, and like 6 guys just run them out of town. Okay. Let's see. The CTA, Chicago Transit Authority, has identified possible bags that could be bombs, and all transit authorities get these, right? So they swab them. Nothing was found. But the rumors come at a tense time for immigrants. Donald Trump has taken a hardline stance against illegal immigration that, according to one local organizer, has created an atmosphere of terror among immigrants regardless of documentation status. And of course, we know that's a feature, not a bug.
Right. Exactly.
And so I got to say, the way that this news conference went yesterday, not being able to answer the Russian question, basically saying it's a ruse, right? Right? Yeah, well, one other tidbit, there's going to be investigations about who in our intelligence community did the leaks.
Right.
Well, it's turning out it probably didn't come from our intelligence community, but our allies. Because they're wondering what the hell is going on, and they started listening in, and they turned it over to the Washington Post and the New York Times. So I'm just saying, between that and the rest of us, we're fed up. That's why these indivisible organizations and event and meetups are so packed.
Yes.
This next article is by Esther Yushile out of Think Progress. Okay, here we go. Lawyers for Daniel Ramirez Medina, a 23-year-old undocumented immigrant, twice granted temporary deportation protection under the Obama administration, are accusing the federal government of intentionally altering documents to show gang membership to justify his detention.
Yeah, there we go.
Federal officials have accused, and this is what during the press conference, he was asked about DACA. He says, "Oh, they're all good kids. Oh, but of course there's a few that they're not all good. They're not all good. Some of them are bad drug dealers, gang members," which was a bit of a nod to this fellow and others who are being accused of being gang members. But you can't be a gang member. You can't have a criminal record to be part of DACA. And so they're creating criminal records for these kids. I want to know if these people who are doing this, and including our president, are going to be claustrophobic in an 8 by 9 foot cell at Leavenworth, or will they prefer the much larger digs in The Hague? That's the question I want a reporter to ask at the White House press briefing. Will you be claustrophobic in an 8 by 9 foot cell? Federal officials have accused Ramirez Medina, who in official court documents uses Ramirez as his surname, of being a gang member due to his, quote, admitted gang affiliation and risk to public safety. As evidence, they said that he used to be and continues to be affiliated with members of the Sureños gang. You know, they cut off heads and stuff. That, is what they're saying. Officials also presented his forearm tattoo, which reads, La Paz Besa Es, as evidence. Of course, La Paz in Spanish means peace, and BCS means Baja California Sur, where he was born. Well, it was in Spanish. He's a gang member. This tattoo was in Spanish. I saw some Arabic. That must be a bomb. Must be a bomb on the plane. The guy was reading Arabic. See what they're doing here, Wink? Lawyers presented documents to the media that appeared to be tampered with, showing that parts of Ramirez's declaration, written to be placed out of a gang unit in the detention center, had been erased. That note originally read, I came in and the officer said I have gang affiliation, so now I have to wear an orange uniform. But the first line was erased so that Ramirez's testimony instead started with, I have gang affiliation. Altered or not, the note still ended with him reporting that he is not affiliated with gangs. Oops, they missed one. According to the government brief, ICE agents went to Ramirez's home last Friday to arrest his father, who had been deported multiple times and was convicted of narcotics trafficking. Ramirez answered affirmatively when government agents asked if he had been arrested before. Yes, for being undocumented, which under DACA didn't apply to him because of other mitigating circumstances, right? Well, he has since been detained at the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma, Washington, for the last 7 days. In a press statement released yesterday, ICE claimed Ramirez's case was illustrative of ICE agents pursuing public safety threats from our communities when they encounter them. Somebody with brown skin is obviously a danger, and we got to get them out by any means necessary, even if it means erasing parts of their declaration. No racial issue here, of course not. Of course, his lawyers and Ramirez deny all of the gang allegations. He has no criminal record. There are no criminal charges pending against him, no criminal convictions. All the criminal justice databases are clear with respect to him. Mark Rosenbaum, Ramirez's lawyer, said, well, Ramirez has a traffic ticket, and that's what he was talking about, actually. Local law enforcement do not have any database listing him with gang affiliation. In reality, it's either that Ramirez is not a gang member or the DHS did a poor job vetting him when they issued his latest work permit on, wait for it, May 6th of 2016. Without referencing Ramirez's case, Trump hinted that he had empathy, and that was yesterday during the press conference, for DACA recipients in a situation, but he also believed that some of them are gang members and drug dealers. I just love this. It's the old 1970s, black exploitation movies with the pimps and the hoes and the drug dealing.
Heck yeah.
Now, Ramirez has been in the spotlight since becoming one of nearly 700 people detained in nationwide enforcement raids by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency last week. The raids come weeks after Trump signed an executive order expanding the kind of crimes that could be punishable by deportation. Well, he paid the ticket. If he hadn't paid the ticket, he probably would have been out of here sooner. But he paid it and put a little wrench in their works and a little monkey wrench in their works. So they had to erase the first part where it said, I am not a gang member. And it said, I'm a gang member. I'm not. I'm a gang member. Okay. Now, I said that they're called altering documents because, trust me, this is not an isolated case. Where it's done once, it's done thousands of times, if not more.
Right.
Because I remind folks, the first time I went to traffic school, you had a choice of paying the ticket, or going to traffic school and then you could have it written off of your insurance.
Yep.
You still had to pay the ticket, but you get it off your insurance.
Right.
And then you had to pay for the class too.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So the first time I go, it's a cop, on his off time, or I don't know, maybe a DA or somebody. And the first question was, how many of you are in here, but you had been doing what you're in here for a long time before you got caught? And all of us raised our hands.
Yeah.
Because we got used to be able to do it, that our muscle memory was such that, well, no one's looking at this, right? So I always think of it of that first utterance in the first class in traffic school from that fellow when I come across issues like this. Oh, they've erased documents? Wow. Sounds to me like it's been happening a lot because somebody saw somebody do it, and somebody else did it, and somebody else did it. Next thing you know, they're repossessing homes from people who don't have a bank account. Right? See how that works? Okay. I'll hurry up on this one. This is not so long. This is by Ian Millhiser, of course, constitutional law expert extraordinaire over at Think Progress. Conservative lawmakers routinely tout voter ID laws as a solution to voter fraud. But multiple investigations, including investigations conducted by Republican supporters of voter ID, confirm that those laws are a solution in search of a problem. The kind of fraud prevented by such laws is only slightly more common than elves. Which I think that means there are no elves, Wink.
I guess.
A new study by political scientist Zoltan L. Hajnal, Nazita Lajavardi, and Lindsay Nielsen explains that these laws do accomplish, however. According to Hajnal and his co-authors, turnout among Hispanic voters is 7.1 percentage points lower in general elections and 5.3 points lower in primaries in states with strict voter ID laws. The laws also reduce turnout among African American and Asian American voters. Well, no wonder these are effective laws, Wink. They really keep the vote totals down, especially around bad hombres.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Inscrutable Asians.
Yep.
Pimps and hoes. I don't know. We might as well just get women in there too, right? Just all of them. All of them are a possible problem. But as a result, voter ID laws disparate impact on people of color. Such laws are illegal. The Voting Rights Act prohibits any state voting restriction, which, quote, results in a denial or abridgment of the right of any citizen to vote on account of race or color. And indeed, some courts have struck down voter ID laws because of their disparate impact on minority voters. Now, most notably, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, one of the most conservative federal appeals courts in the country, held that Texas's voter ID law violates the Voting Rights Act. And this is after it's been gutted, Wink. Their opinion noted data indicating that blacks were 1.78 times more likely than whites and Latinos, 2.42 times more likely to lack voter ID. This is from the Republicans in the legislature. Said, oh, yeah, see, it's not so bad. Yet, despite the racist impact of voter ID and federal law prohibiting such impacts, it is far from clear that the Supreme Court will enforce the Voting Rights Act when it hears a challenge to voter ID. Last year, a federal appeals court struck down, I'm sorry here. All of a sudden, I hit the wrong part of the page and it scrolled to a different point here. So let me scroll down here. All right, here we go. Struck down North Carolina's omnibus voter suppression law after finding that the law was intentionally designed to target black voters and to minimize its impact on whites. Because they had strategy meeting notes where they said, well, how can we construct these districts so that, all the blacks are voting in one district? And they did it. Okay, yet all four conservative justices voted to reinstate this law before the 2016 election. Oops. So if Neil Gorsuch, Trump's nominee to fill the vacant seat on the Supreme Court, is confirmed, he'll likely be the fifth vote in favor of racial voter suppression, just as the founders intended originally, right? That was the original intent. He's supposed to be like just to the right of Scalia, so I can imagine how it's going to be. All right, let's get to our Jim Hightower break. We'll come back, go through we'll go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar, of course, and then the Friday News Dump and Recycling Center for the last half. You're listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
Of all the people suffering economic pain today, who should get priority attention from the new president and Congress? Regular folks in our country say that those on the lower rungs of the economic ladder, the poor and downtrodden working class, ought to be the priority. But then, regular folks don't run Congress or Trump's White House. The Donald's working class voters must be stunned to see that his top economic priority is not them, but a tiny group dwelling in luxury at the very tippy top of the ladder, Wall Street bankers. Rather than pushing an urgently needed FDR-style jobs program, Trump and company are rushing to aid the richest Americans at the expense of the working class, actually proposing to unleash the banksters to defraud and gouge workaday people. For example, they want to save the poor financial giants from a consumer protection called the fiduciary rule. If you've got a 401k retirement plan, chances are it's managed by a firm of financial advisors. So this rule simply requires them to act in your best interest rather than shifting your money into risky investments that pay them bigger commissions. Prior to the enactment of this ethics provision in 2015, many advisors were serving themselves, gleefully ripping off their customers, mostly ordinary working families, to the tune of $17 billion a year. This is Jim Hightower saying that's immoral, but it's real money, so the industry has been lobbying hard, but unsuccessfully, to kill the legal requirement that money advisors deal honestly with clients. Now, however, they've got a president who appreciates dishonest business dealings and is going all out to liberate them from the shackles of ethics. Hallelujah, shout Wall Street's bankers. Free at last, free at last. Thank Donald Almighty, we are free at last to gouge consumers.
If you'd like more of Jim Hightower's real populism, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter gives you the real lowdown on which corporations, by name, are doing what to the middle class, our environment, and our democracy. Each month, the Hightower Lowdown brings you facts you didn't know, along with actions you can take to fight back. It also comes with a sense of humor. Hightower believes we can fight the gods and still have fun. Plus, get this, it's cheap. Only $15 brings you 12 issues a year. For real populism, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River on the River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York 21 on the East Coast. Our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the After Show, to span the globe, the solar system, way past the Oort cloud, way past frozen interstellar space, even way past that star bridge between those two galaxies.
Yeah.
And I guess it goes without saying, if since I mentioned all that, and beyond.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
That's right. Remember those old great science fiction movies where, you know, the old kind, and they would have like the clay model or just the wooden model of a spaceship, and would like go through space, and the exhaust smoke out of the rocket at the end would like float upward? That always amazed me. How did that happen in space?
Yeah. The good old days. Huh?
That's actually kind of what I think of when Trump said that his administration is functioning like a fine-tuned machine.
Right.
He said that. There's no chaos. It's a fine-tuned machine. Eek. Okay, today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar is facilitated, as it is every Friday, by Smiley Creek, unless it isn't. But like I said yesterday, she and Paradise 50 are not going to be called for jury duty anytime soon.
Right.
They've obviously exposed themselves as rational, critical thinkers with a wealth of world knowledge, and you can't have that. That makes you biased. Oh, you know a bunch of stuff? Well, she starts off the diary today with a question about, can you read faces? And there's a study about how to rate folks as being introverts or extroverts just by their faces. And a little bit of confession, you know, my dad was part of the original, the OSA, you know, the precursor to the CIA. And part of his job was, you know, really just bureaucratic. You know, he had to travel the country and basically interview neighbors and friends and business associates and whatnot for people to get security clearances, right? But part of his training was that you could never lie to my dad. You know, he always knew all the tells, right?
Right.
And so I think my dad would be good at reading faces. I don't put a whole lot of stock in body language because I think it's not codified enough. It's too much subjectivity involved. But on the other hand, there are peculiarities that are common to people's behavior. And, you know, I mean, like if someone averts their eyes, if they look like down to like the left corner, right? That's usually indicative that what they're doing is that they're lying, and they're visualizing their lie in their head, you know, to give it some mental force. So that's a little tell, possibly, that now, it's, you know, they might not be lying, and they might just be a peculiar tick to their behavior. But that happens enough, so you notch that one down. Then they do something else, you know, whether it's fidgeting or whatever, I don't know. But I just remember, you know, you couldn't lie to my dad, and I always attributed it to his training, you know, to interrogate people. Or as he would say, interview.
Yeah.
All right. Northwestern Pennsylvania Cossacks are going to be meeting up tomorrow, and that's February 18th, of course, at 6 p.m. at Latino's Restaurant, 1315 Parade Street, Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yep.
And get a hold of Gizmo 59 RSVP. And looks like they have a half a dozen folks committed and several who are maybes.
Awesome.
Colorado Community has their Caffeinating Liberally meetup every fourth Saturday of every month. And this meetup coming on February 25th is run by Left Candid and Colorado Tim, of course, and they meet at Common Grounds Coffee House, 44th and Vallejo in Denver from 9 a.m. to noonish at the table by the piano. So get a hold of Left Candid and Colorado Tim to apprise them that you may be showing up. And mark your calendars, because Saturday, April 22nd, 22nd from 9 a.m. to noon. LA Cossacks will be joining the March for Science in Los Angeles. So Cosmo Susans to connect, and they'll have a meetup point in which to begin their part of the parade. And also mark your calendars for June 30th through July 2nd, the Epic Glacier National Park Meetup, 3rd annual, by the way. Thinking Fella and Ojibwa are organizing the event, so get a hold of them. But also go to the Connect Unite Act Daily Codes Community Diary and check out a very important diary about some very important planning details. Because when you're camping near a glacier, I don't know. It's not like just standing in front of the freezer with the door open.
Right.
Oh, no. All right. So that is your Connect Unite Act Daily Codes community calendar for the 17th of February of 2017. You know, I always do dates, you know, like when I write them out in the European model, because I went to like a French Catholic school when I was a little kid.
There you go.
And but you know, that format doesn't really work like in a lot of the software we use, like on the radio. So when I have like 17 February 17, it kind of disappears. I have to actually do it February 17th, 2017. So whenever like the same day of a month is the same year, it throws a lot of stuff off. It's really, I don't know. I think they should get with it and go with the European model because I don't know. It's more cultured.
Yeah, it's the way we did it as military police there.
Yes, there you go.
U.S. Army, you know, the U.S. Army.
Yeah, there you go.
European thing there, yeah.
I hear you. Same thing. Yep. But, okay, Gateway Pundit. I hate this guy. But he gets a press pass. I'm thinking if he gets a press pass, I'm serious, Wink. Being anti-fluoride might be our way in. I'm serious. We got to push that one. Oh, yeah. Precious bodily fluids.
Yes.
Then once we're in, then we can, like, you know, spring a real question on him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like mine. Will you feel claustrophobic in an 8 foot by 9 foot cell at Leavenworth? Of course, at The Hague, they get a little apartment with a washing bowl and a table and a chair and stuff. So, okay, this is by Media Matters staff. Because no one wants to be in the firing line when the right wing says, you wrote about one of our heroes.
Right.
Okay, the internet's most hapless political blogger now has his own White House correspondent, a regular contributor with little reporting experience, but ample ties to, quote, alt-right harassment.
Yeah.
Sitting in the White House press briefing room. At the January 19th deplorable event before the inauguration, Gateway Pundit founder and dumbest man on the internet, Jim Hoft, announced that his outlet would have a White House correspondent with the Trump administration and that Lucian Wintrich would fill the position. On February 13th, Hoft posted a reader alert that Hoft and Wintrich will be attending the White House press briefing. Hoft confusingly wrote, please look for us and keep your fingers crossed. One of us has asked a question. I got to tell you, this Wintrich guy, he looks like he's about 14, Wink. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep hearing that by attrition, you know, all the bigots will just die off because they're all old.
Right.
And all the young ones coming up. But I don't know, man. There's some virulent, really toxic youngsters with the right-wing stuff. I mean, I don't know. They're learners. Okay. Crazy. All right. So hours later, Hoff tweeted a photo of himself and Wintrich standing behind the lectern in the White House briefing room, displaying a hand signal associated with the racist Pepe meme. And the tweet itself also included the hashtag Pepe and a frog emoji, commonly understood to invoke the hate symbol. That's right. Hoff's political blog has often served as the single source for completely unfounded reporting, that nonetheless catches fire in the right-wing internet world until it becomes what Kellyanne Conway might deem an alternative fact. The frequency with which he posts hoaxes and complete fabrications as fact suggests that Hoff either has a reckless and total disregard for the truth or is so incompetent he cannot separate fact from fiction. Now, of course, in my worldview, it's probably both.
Right.
Most recently, Hoff's total negligence for the truth led to an internet harassment campaign against Washington Post homepage editor Doris Trong, who he wrongly reported was captured taking secret photos of Rex Tillerson's notes at his confirmation hearing for Secretary of State on January 11th. Trong was not at the hearing. She is, however, an Asian American woman, like the person photographed at the hearing. And that was seemingly enough for Hoff to run with. Trong had already been subjected to extensive racist trolling by the time Hoff quietly corrected his post. And that is Hoff's pattern. Decide what a random photo or document means without obtaining any supporting evidence, post it as factual news, watch the alternative fact spread, and then quietly change the post or claim yet another mistake, then repeat. Now, the Gateway's pundit's new White House correspondent is now attending press briefings, and it's unclear how brand strategist and digital creative Lucian Wintrich, who frequently refers to the new president endearingly as Daddy, will approach this responsibility. If his past actions and social media persona are any indication, Wintrich will follow the Gateway pundit formula for irresponsible and dangerous reporting, and perhaps even more explicitly incite harassment from his new White House platform. Now, Wintrich is not a reporter. He is a gay conservative mouthpiece, primarily known as the artist behind a Twinks for Trump photography exhibit that debuted at the GOP National Convention. Last summer, he explained that he aims to be the first rational voice that the American people have had in the White House press in ages. He recently wrote on social media, "I don't consider myself a journalist. I consider myself the future of journalism." Propaganda, hey, newspeak, buddy. He doesn't have much experience as a political reporter prior to joining the Gateway pundit. A Nexus search of his name for the last 5 years reveals only a handful of articles in which he is quoted, and no byline pieces. He has authored one opinion piece describing his pro-Trump art, and that was posted on the Hill last fall. He's written about a dozen posts for the Gateway pundit in the past few weeks, and he was previously the subject of several posts on the blog as well as on Breitbart.com before beginning this correspondent position. Man, we're just too old. We can't do this.
Yep.
They won't pick us. Damn, this guy just he's just got slotted in.
Right.
All right. Well, you got Pepe in the White House briefing room, folks. Jesus. This next article is by Luke Harding, Stephanie Kirsch-Gesner, Nick Hopkins, and David Smith. Yes, for The Guardian. We're not going to get it here. The scandal hit bank, Deutsche Bank, that loaned hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump, has conducted a close internal examination of the U.S. president's personal account to gauge whether there are any suspicious connections to Russia, The Guardian has learned. Deutsche Bank, which is under investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice and is facing intense regulatory scrutiny, want to know why? Yes, for laundering money for the Russians. Isn't that funny? Well, they were looking for evidence of whether recent loans to Trump, which were struck in highly unusual circumstances, may have been underpinned by financial guarantees from Moscow. The Guardian has also learned that the president's immediate family are Deutsche clients. The bank examined accounts held by Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter, her husband Jared Kushner, who serves as a White House advisor, and Kushner's mother. The internal review found no evidence of any Russia link, but Deutsche Bank is coming under pressure to appoint an external and independent auditor to review its business relationship with the president. Democratic Congressman Bill Pascrell Jr., a member of the House Ways and Means Committee, said, "We know that Deutsche Bank is a major lender to Trump, and the firm is also currently undergoing scrutiny by the Department of Justice for alleged misconduct. I think it's important for the American people to know the extent of the bank's involvement with Trump and whether there is any Russian involvement in loans made to Mr. Trump." A source familiar with Deutsche Bank's internal review said it came after Trump's bid to become U.S. president made him a politically exposed person. Under bank regulations, the PAPs politically exposed person, PAP, undergo tougher scrutiny than regular clients because of their proximity to government. After Trump's victory in the U.S. election, the bank double-checked its records, the source said. The bank has also fielded numerous media inquiries about Trump's recent loans, which were viewed as unorthodox among some bankers familiar with the transactions. According to an analysis by Bloomberg, Trump now owes Deutsche around $300 billion. He has 4 large mortgages, all issued by Deutsche's private bank. The loans are guaranteed against the president's properties, a new deluxe hotel in Washington, D.C.'s old post office building, which he might lose because, yes, he's violating the law. The Chicago Tower Hotel and the Trump National Doral Miami Resort. His house, Miami Doral Resort. In recent years, the disgraced bank has been hit by a series of scandals. Last month, the UK and US imposed fines of $630 million. Deutsche failed to prevent money laundering by its Moscow branch, involving at least $10 billion in Russian cash, regulators found. Deutsche's client relationship with the Kushners was made public in a 2013 article in the New York Observer, which Kushner owned. Ivanka Trump, who formerly served as an executive in Trump's real estate business, is also a client of Deutsche, and she now works as an unofficial advisor to the White House. Kushner's mother is also a client, according to the person familiar with the matter. The bank's internal review looked at the president's accounts as well as his wider family. The bank said it would not be drawn on what had prompted the internal examination which had undertaken, or what its findings had been. George said it would not say anything about whether the review found any links between Trump's loans and Moscow. However, 2 bank sources have told The Guardian that it found no evidence to show the loans had been underwritten from money from Moscow or any Russian bank, which begs the question, why don't you look at that Cypriot bank instead?
Yeah.
That's where I would be looking. Deutsche Bank says its positions that it will not comment or guide on any stories about Mr. Trump's financial affairs. And Trump and his business have a long history with the German bank, which this month posted a net loss of 1.4 billion euros. It has been the only financial institution willing to lend Trump significant sums in the 90s after Wall Street banks, which had previously extended him credit, turned off the tap after Trump's businesses declared bankruptcy 4 times. In November of 2008, the German bank took the unusual step of suing Trump after he failed to repay $40 million of a $640 million real estate loan. Trump countersued. The tycoon argued that Deutsche had contributed to the global recession, which had depressed property prices, and he demanded $3 billion in damages. Deutsche's astonished lawyers described Trump's lawsuit as frivolous and demanded immediate payment, and the 2 parties settled for something less than the $40 million that he owed. Interesting, right? That was in 2010. And then they quietly reestablished its relation with Trump via Deutsche's private bank. And the private wealth division deals with ultra-high net worth individuals typically with assets in excess of $50 million. I think he's got a little bit more than that in the U.S. Treasury now, doesn't he, Wink?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right. Well, the Guardian is on this, and it looks like right now there's no direct links between these questionable loans, but they're trying to figure out how the hell no bank would ever loan him money, and then suddenly he gets money in the last couple of years. And even more after he declared his run for the presidency. Interesting. All right. Well, we are really at even past our broadcast period. That's what we say an hour-ish. All right. But stay tuned, Netroots Radio. We've got the Roundtable Roundhouse Power Hour coming up on Saturday with Wink and Roaring Girl, a 1-hour opportunity to call in for live radio and get your indivisible coordinations coordinated. And that's at 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. Jibber Your Jabber, 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast on Sunday, 2-hour opportunity. And as we get ready for Tom Hartman coming up about 6 minutes after the hour, heck, why don't we play Iron and Wine's Upward Over the Mountain? All right. And I would also suggest stay listening to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And why? Well, because who loves you, baby? All right, we'll see you all on Monday, fresh and frisky. And until then, I'll just tell Wink I will see you on the other side.